Welcome, low ego action heroes. Sorry, this animation is in very slow motion. Hopefully, you can hear me okay. Hi, it's Debbie live from vacation. Welcome to the Office Hours Ask Me Anything show. It might be a bit blippy and the video might be bad, but I'm hoping the audio will be okay. If you are watching live, can you please let me know how the audio sounds? I'm more worried about the audio than I am about the video. But hi. Hello from our camper. We are on vacation, but we got some okay internet here, and I thought I would try to do office hours and see if I can answer people's questions. So welcome to the camper. And I'm doing it early because a storm is supposed to be rolling in, and I don't know if we'll lose internet or whatever. Thanks, Elvina. I'm glad the audio is good. It looks like the video is a little bit slow, and little raccoon eyes there. Thanks, Ilaria. Hi, Janice. Hope you're feeling well. So this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. This is where I take your questions for usually an hour, but we'll just say weather permitting. Thank you, Christian. Hi, Manuel. So of course, as always, let's thank the low ego action heroes who are financially donating to the channel through YouTube memberships, which is totally optional, but always appreciated. Let me turn my headset up a little bit because I'm going to speak a little bit more quietly because this is a quiet campground. I don't want to be my usual yelling self. So it's Debbie on vacation, which rarely happens. Let's get some of the comments up on the screen. Oh, yeah, everything's really slow. I am not on my usual computer. I am on my laptop, and vMix is just doing its best with all of the overlays that I have, so we might have to just turn some of them off. I only got one question ahead of time today, so if you'd like to ask a question, put it in the chat room, or you can send it to deltacx.com/links. No, that's not it. That's the usual, that's all the information about the show. Sorry, a little spring out. Hey, this is backup sound. I don't know what happened to the audio. No clue. Okay. That's just me shouting into my webcam, I guess. All right. That will be today's show. Deb shouts into her webcam microphone. Sorry that this is not as well rehearsed. It's never rehearsed. It's not as good as usual. So good thing that this is all you paid for it. All right. Let's try answering this question. Sorry about the spring allergies. So this is a really interesting question. Thanks to the person who sent it. There's a lot of information going on here. Let me read it again because I know my microphone cut out. How would you approach research to understand why a page has a low click-through rate? Run a survey on the page that comes before the one with the low click-through rate? Do interviews with people who we've seen in the data haven't clicked through to the next page? So let's start with critical thinking hat on, and let's ask if any of those questions that the person asked. Total experiment. So the problem is, what would you ask them in that survey? Are you going to ask them, do you plan to click on the big button we hope you click on? Well, that doesn't make sense. Are you going to ask that, what would you ask them in a survey before the page that you hope they'll click on that would help you know what's going on? I'm not sure there's a good question, but if you out in the live audience can think of something, let's hear it. What would you ask in a survey before a page where a lot of people seem to be dropping off in the funnel or the flow? But I don't think running that type of survey is going to be the right way to go. The next part of the question asks, what about interviews with people who we saw in the data didn't click through to that next page? Now, if you can track those people down, you could try to then pop up a survey and maybe like an exit survey and be like, did you accomplish your task today? Yes, no. What were you trying to do here? Box, the end. So you could put one of those surveys that it tries to intercept people when they're leaving. Usually it's a little peek up from the bottom. I've played with these on Hotjar, and I know other systems do them as well. And the idea would be that we could ask people if they're trying to, what they were trying to do here today, and if they feel they accomplished that task, and if not, what was that task? Because I think that's going to be at the core of this. My hypothesis is that there might be a disconnect between the company and what they hope people will do, and the user and what they're here to do. And if the user is here to do X, but the company is counting Y clicks, there's going to be a disconnect here, and it's going to look like people aren't doing what we want them to do. Okay, but they might be doing what they needed to do. So we should understand that. Do we understand that customer journey? I think I still have that graphic I can overlay here. So, and Elvina says, do they have any web recordings through analytics or heat maps maybe? Yeah, so looking at some web recordings can sometimes tell us some things. I can see that there's some of my graphic missing because I don't have my usual dark background. So it says action at the end. But this is the way that I draw the end-to-end customer journey. There's a trigger that makes people have to come to your website or a competitor's website or do something. There's something people need to do, and this starts their task. Then I call it the orbit. Are they searching? Do they come straight to you? Do they go to a competitor? What's going on here? And then, let's say they choose you today, or they have to go to your system for something. Now they're in your ecosystem. This is their time on your site or your app or whatever. And now usually this is your funnel. This is you trying to figure out if they're going to do what you hope they do. But remember, there's all these things that people do before that. And then, of course, there's things that they do after that. Action! And my question for the person who asked the question, and Kayleen, your question will be next, is what do we understand about that? What do we understand about the true end-to-end customer journey? Do we understand what people came here to do? Because maybe what they didn't click on was bad news for you, but totally normal or appropriate or acceptable for what their task was. We see this sometimes on things like dating websites. People are coming to dating websites because they want to check some people out and maybe send some messages to people, but people might say, hey, like the company might say, hey, we're not seeing people winking at each other enough, or we're not seeing people buying enough paid add-ons. Well, hold on, they just wanted to come here and find some people and send them messages. Buying your add-ons kind of wasn't a part of their task, so it may be something that very few people did. This is their task. If your add-ons aren't going to help them accomplish that and be worth whatever they cost, then they're just not part of the task. So I would be suspicious that we don't fully understand the customer's journey, and that what we hope they will do is not a match to what they're here to do. And that's why the funnel is from the company's perspective, and the click-through rate is from the company's perspective. So that's what I would do. Are they here to do? How can they tell when it's done? How can they tell when it's done well? These are normally things that are done through generative research. So I think we could try to do, as Elvina said, some watching like Hotjar videos. I'm not sure a heat map would tell me that much, but really we're going to learn the most from getting some people for generative research and talking more about what their task is. And then I think when we understand the true customer journey, we'll
probably start to have some ideas as to why people click and why people don't click, because we'll understand more about their task, what they're doing there. Also study their decision-making process. Maybe there's a reason they're dropping off at that point because because they have to go to other people for approval or decisions. So there you go. Let's try that. Thanks for that question. I'm going to copy paste Kayleen's question, and then Shanak has a question which will be after Kayleen's. I miss watching these sessions, Debbie. Well, thank you. Please watch them. I'm doing them. Hello from vacation. Sorry about my shaky camera. I literally have my laptop balanced on 2 toilet paper rolls on a table because it's high quality production, everybody. So here's Kayleen's question. She says, who's responsible for creating user stories? User stories are created after the research has completed analysis independently, and UX research doesn't analyze data hunting for possible user stories, right? Okay, let's talk about user stories. And again, we'll add Shanak's question to the end of the list, so that'll be next. Okay. So user stories, there's 2 ways to look at user stories. Oh, and Elvina's got a question after that. And again, if at some point I just disappear, don't take it personally. They are predicting thunderstorms for right where I'm sitting. You can probably see in some cases it's getting a little dark here. If I just disappear, it's thunderstorms, and see you all hopefully Friday, but unknown. So back to Kayleen's question. There's I think there's 2 schools of thought on user stories. One school of thought is product managers and product owners need to write user stories so that we can tell UX what to build. Obviously, this is typically feature-oriented and very often a feature factory. So we say, as a user, I think a user wants a large blue cup so that I don't have to refill my cup so much. Okay, UX, build everybody a large blue cup. So sometimes user stories are used like requirements, where they are used as sometimes strict and sometimes non-strict guidelines for UX designers to know what to design. The other school of thought is that user stories really aren't for UX at all. We really don't need those to design. We generally don't enjoy getting user stories and requirements since they're usually too prescriptive. And so user stories are really for engineers. User stories humanize things for engineers by helping them understand the perspective of the user relative to the features and functions that have been built. So in many cases, product managers and product owners are writing user stories. In many cases, these are part of Agile or Scrum things, and these user stories are for developers. They are sometimes put into things like Jira tickets. They are sometimes given acceptance criteria. So it's like, as a user, I need a large blue cup, which is totally overprescribed, but just play with me here. I need a large blue cup so that I'm not filling up my cup so often. UX designed that thing. Engineers, now you understand the user's perspective on it. And hey, maybe we'll add some acceptance criteria. This ticket is not complete until we have a large blue cup. So I think it really depends on how the organization is set up. I prefer to see user stories the second way, where they're really created for engineers to understand the user's perspectives on why we built these features or functions or flows or processes. To me, writing a user story for UX doesn't make sense because we don't need them. We've already hopefully humanized this. We hopefully understand users' real needs. We don't need this ceremony of making these phrases in these, it's usually as a certain type of user, I need or want this so that I can accomplish this. If we're doing good research and good analysis and task analysis and things like that, then we don't need a user story. We know these things. Kayleen, am I close? Am I in the ballpark of what you're asking? Hi, Felicia. Thanks for asking. My day is going okay. How about you? Are you working in UX? Because that's what this channel's about. So Kayleen, let me know if that answers the question or comes close. I would not expect a UX researcher to write user stories because typically user stories describe features to someone who's going to build them. So typically, in a feature factory, that's going to be user stories are to tell UX what to do because UX doesn't get to be problem finders and problem solvers. And in another universe, um, it would be user stories for engineers, so typically developers and QA, so that they can understand the features from the user's perspective, even though they'll also get wireframes, prototypes, documentation, and things like that. Let's see. Felicia says, I'm stuck on a train and bathrooms are closed and I have to pee. What's the worst you've ever had to pee? That doesn't seem totally relevant for our particular channel and for the things that we do. But I can only say that there are certainly times where I've had to pee badly, and I think it's always good to pee before you get on mass transit. So pee before you get on mass transit, pee before you get on long line at amusement park rides, and oh yeah, pee before everything. That's, I think that's, I wouldn't make a shirt out of that, but I think it's just generally good advice. So good luck to Felicia. Hopefully the train that's not moving for 6 hours will certainly be fixed. All right, back to our questions about UX and CX. And Kayleen, please ask a follow-up question if I didn't address what you were going for there. I know that where people are working tend to not exactly match the types of things I describe. I'm describing a beautiful outcome for user stories where they're really just for engineers, but the companies do it all kinds of ways. I have seen some companies where UX is expected to write user stories, but I always go to the product managers or product owners and say, I really think this is your job. I'll take a look at them if you want. We can collaborate if you want, but I think this is yours to do after our designs are done. That would be me. All right, let's move over to Shanak's question. Okay, Shanak says, when it comes to group projects, is it important to mix up pronouns such as I and we? This way it creates storytelling and not just talks about what I did only and shows how we work in groups. So I'm going to guess that Shanak is talking about his portfolio. And because it's not clear from the question what we're talking about here, but I'm going to say this is a UX portfolio. And we don't want to mix up I and we. So using I and we doesn't necessarily create better storytelling. Better storytelling is better storytelling. I and we are just words and pronouns. If you want to do better storytelling, you have to explain in your portfolio what work you did versus what work someone else did. So for example, if I'm on a team on a project with Kayleen and Elvina and Shanak, and we're all doing a little bit of research and we're all doing a little bit of design, I don't just mix up I and we randomly to make it sound interesting and sometimes say I did this and sometimes say we did this. That is not random at all, and it shouldn't be random. And your question makes it sound like you're wondering if it should just be mixed up randomly for the sake of storytelling. I and we are extremely specific pronouns that point to people. So either when you say I expect that means that you did that alone, that nobody else on your team worked on this, and if you're describing this work in your portfolio case study and you say I did this, I'm going to assume that means that the other teammates did not work on this. If you say we did this, I take that as a group effort. You did some of it, but you didn't do all of it. But if you don't use good storytelling, I don't know what stuff you did and what stuff you didn't. So if you just say, we interviewed some people, I don't know how many people you interviewed. I don't know if you wrote the questions. I don't know what involvement you had in planning. Remember, there's so many things that can happen during research and during design and other aspects of UX. So you can't just say, we did a thing, or I did a thing, you more than one person did, since we is first person plural. Elvina, I see your other question, and we'll add that to the bottom of the list. But first, we have your other question. So, Shanak, I hope that helps. Let's put up Elvina's question. Paste. What are your thoughts on testing different flows of a design with the same users? Sometimes that depends on your company's policies. Some companies don't want to test with the same user again more often than once every 6 months. Some companies do want to show stuff to the same users over and over. Sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes your company has only given you access to 20 users, and these are the people you have to go to when you can, and you hope that you are not going to wear them out. You obviously want to throw some money or something at them so that it's worth it. So, if you mean in one study, like, hey, I'm doing one study with these users, I want to show them 2 different flows and see how they move through these flows and which one seems to work better, I do that. That's not necessarily special, and that's not an A/B test, and that's not something special. To me, I just do those. I've done them as unmoderated and moderated. Make sure half the people see A first, half the people see B first. That way it's not the bias of what they saw first, and you can check your results there. And so I would say, in general, you don't want to use the same people over and over again too much, but sometimes you don't have a choice because you don't have access to more people. So I can say the best way to go is to not use the same people over and over, especially because they are, if they're existing users, they're already savvy about your product. They probably know even the crappy parts and how to work around them. They're going to be way more savvier than the newbie. Depending upon where you work, you might want to try to get people from outside of your company, as in like people who aren't customers, people who match the target audience profile but aren't customers. That way they're coming in with fresh eyes. They don't know your system. And whether you're showing them your existing system or changes to it or a whole new redesign and new ideas, they've never seen any of this before. So you can just see how they move through it without their what's the word I'm looking for? Just the idea. So in general, it's good to have a mix of people who might be existing customers or users, but also people who aren't, so that you can see how somebody with no existing knowledge of your particular tool or system approaches this stuff. I hope that helps. Oh, we also have a question from Mukund. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Everybody knows I'm bad with names. And we'll put that question in and then go back to Elvina's second question. What is the good approach for already built product? How to approach to make it better? Okay, so that is an extremely general question. Mukund, if you're here, let's see if we can add some more information to that. So if somebody already has product or software out there, and the question is, how do we make this better? Then the first thing we have to figure out is, where's there room for improvement? Where's there room for improvement, which is going to be your smaller upgrades or incremental improvements or changes? And where's there room for a real rethinking or redesign? Or what is something we missed here that people really need, where it's going to be something new we add to this and not just a change or a small change? And so the best way to go about that is through research. If we don't do research first and we just go to the product and try to make some changes, we're guessing. And there's a good chance we'll guess wrong. And that means risk for the company. It means possible waste for the company if you don't make it better because you didn't guess right. It could make you look bad. It could make your team look bad. So there's a lot of risk that comes with guessing how we can make a product better. Mag says, it's Debbie on the go. Yeah. Daniel says, you're never bad with names. No, I'm always bad with names. Excuse me. Spring allergies. Man, oh man. What is this, month 4 of spring allergies? Yow. So, design is much easier when we have the knowledge that comes from research and we're not guessing. When people are guessing at how to make a product better, that's where stuff tends to go wrong. That's where we go, well, we built what we thought. Mukund, I don't know if you have a researcher, but it would definitely be research. And what I would want to stress to the people you're working with is, if we don't do research first to understand where's the user's pain points, where's their unmet needs, where are the opportunities to make something better. If we don't understand those, then this is just guessing. And guessing can take a lot of time and a lot of money, and sometimes make our company look bad, and sometimes help us lose customers. So that's a big look out. Mukund, I hope that helps. I'm going to move to the next question while the weather is still good. Pier Mario, you don't have to stand outside. You can come in if you want. You just won't, my headset stopped working, so I'm just shouting into the camera mic. So whatever you say will be picked up.
Yeah, so it's a little out of sync.
It's a little out of sync?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nothing I can do about that. I'm getting a lot of internet blipping. Hey, it's Pier Mario, everybody. Everyone's favorite celebrity. And they don't see that. All right, let's go to Elvina's second question, which was, what questions, in your opinion, should be asked? Oh, you know what? I forgot to check if we have anonymous questions coming in. I'm bad at this. I'm bad at my own show. Am I missing anonymous questions? Yes. One. Similar to Kayleen questions. Okay, sorry about this. This came in 6 minutes ago and I didn't see it. I will answer this after Elvina's question. Thank you to anonymous question person. Sorry, I wasn't checking. Not doing the one-person show as well as usual. Didn't bother with the concealer. All right. What questions, in your opinion, should be asked from stakeholders when the project kicks off? Okay. So there's a couple of schools of thought here, as always. To me, the things that I want to know from stakeholders are things around success. So, for example, why are we doing this project? What does the business see as success? What does the business see as their desirable outcomes? Note that these may be different than the desired user outcomes, but I'm talking to stakeholders right now, not users, so I expect them to see this just through their lens. I don't really expect them to speak about the user or even act like they care about them. So I want to know, what does success look like to them? Is there a certain metric or number or goal we need to hit? Is it about better ratings somewhere? Is it about using customer support less? There's usually some metric that the business is counting that this project will improve. Excuse me. You want to learn what that is. You also want to learn if they've already been tracking that metric and what it looks like now. Because if we're going to count it later, we want to see what it looks like now to know if it got better or worse. So we want to know if there's any baseline data. Now, the stakeholders may or may not have that. You may need to team up with data or analytics team, maybe customer support, to try to figure out how are we going to get these numbers. But it can end up being a little bit slippery if you go into a project where they do want to count something, but we have no baseline numbers for that now. We have no idea how well or poorly that's doing. What happens is sometimes those later numbers just look good because we have nothing to compare them to, and people go, yeah, this is great, and you're going, oh, I don't think this is great. So we want to get from stakeholders that type of stuff. We also want to talk to stakeholders about communication styles. Hey, let me tell you how the project is going to go. This is how we do our research. This is where you'll be involved in the research, and this is where you won't be involved in the research. This is where I'll keep you informed about something. This is where you'll have access to some stuff. That way I draw those lines really early, and if I do have a stakeholder who says, no, I want to interview people too, I can have that discussion early on and say, well, actually, we wouldn't have you interview anybody for these 72 reasons, but you're welcome to watch the interviews live, and I'll be happy to invite you to some of those live interviews, as well as to give you access to the recordings later and some video clips after I do the analysis. And sometimes they go, oh yeah, that's fine. And if they say, no, no, I really want to do some interviews, I would say, really the best vantage point to learn the most about the customers to not do the interviews, because interviewing is a very difficult skill, and unfortunately not everybody's good at it, and we don't want to say, oh yeah, I want to sit with you and you do design, and I want to run the interviews myself. Don't say, what involvement would you like to have? Try to maintain control of the project and say, here's the involvement that I normally have with my stakeholders, and draw those boundaries. Draw the boundaries you want to have. Don't say, is that good for you? Do you like that? What involvement do you want? Now you've just totally killed your power and your autonomy, and that gives them the open thing to say, yeah, I want to do everything with you. I'm just going to sit there. I'm going to run workshops. And then you go, well, no, I don't want you to do that. Well, you just asked me what you what. So be careful there. Another great early question for stakeholders is, what do you wish you knew? Especially if we know that we're going to be doing research for this project. Is that our door squeaking?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So sorry, we have the door open and the wind is starting to blow because it's getting a little stormy. So what do you wish you knew? So if we're doing research, we want to find out what questions does the stakeholder have, especially about people and their behaviors or context or decision making. What questions do you have? What assumptions do you have? What do you get the feeling you don't know, or your information might be outdated? And things like that. There's usually 4, and I'm forgetting the 4th right now. I've said it on other shows, but questions, guesses, assumptions, hypotheses, what we think we know, what we wish we knew. So collect those from the stakeholders as well, because I will bring that into research planning to make sure that once the research is done and analyzed, I can go back to stakeholders and say, aha, I found all those things out for you. What's going on?
I'm looking for a table.
Oh, you okay? Oh, that wind is picking up. Did you put away all the chairs and tables?
Yep.
And you locked the side?
Yeah, that looked like success to my stakeholder.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Success to my stakeholder is putting away the camping chairs and table. Yes. Thank you. Thank you,
You're welcome.
stakeholder. Except I already ate the steak. Ba-dum-ba. Yeah, I turned off the sounds. Okay, so Elvina, I hope that helps. Let me know, and let me know if you have a follow-up question. Let's jump to the anonymous question that came in about 10 minutes ago, and let's put that one up on the list and on the screen. Give me one moment. One woman show on the laptop, not on my usual computer. At my desk. Okay, here we go. And paste. Somehow similar to Kayleen's question. Always a good idea. Oh, and I see Afzal's question. We will put that one next. I don't remember when I started. Hold on, let me see. VMix says I've been doing this. Oh, I don't have the timer on. Does anybody know when my show started?
20 minutes ago.
Well, I'll have to check trash email for your show started. Because it's usually an hour. So Afzal will put your question at the end, which would be after this question. Sorry again about the shaky cam and the out of sync audio. Okay, this one says, done with the designs. My PM told me to, Kayleen says 34 minutes. Okay, good. So let me set a timer for 26 just so that we don't go past an hour. Thank you, Kayleen. Done with the designs, my PM told me to write a design doc for the project to give to devs. Is that similar to user stories? If not, how do I go about it? You know, to me, the best answer to this question is to go to your developers and say, what documentation do you need from me? Here's what I have so far. I have wireframes. I have a prototype. I have this thing. I have these things with these notes. I have whatever. this is what I have. Let's walk through it together. Let me walk you through it. What do you need from me? And that way we're not guessing. Because I could say, oh yeah, I want you to write user stories and I want you to make a thing. And then you find out the devs don't want that. Or the PO's writing the user stories and you go, why did Deb tell me to do that? So instead of me telling you what to do, I always think the best way, because this question is really, how do I collaborate with a teammate who isn't from my world? You know, they're not from UX. I think the best way to collaborate with a teammate from another planet is to just go to them with what you have, book a meeting with them, say, here's what I've got. I've got these Figma files. I have this Axure prototype. I have whatever it is. What else do you need from me? You know, and if you have a design system, they should have all of the specs and the spacing. If they don't have that, they might expect specs and spacing from you if you're also a visual designer. So, thanks, Manuel. So, and Janice. So that would be my advice. The best way is always to ask those people, what do you need from me? Now, I know that's kind of an opposite answer to what we just said with the stakeholders. With the stakeholders, we're trying to keep control of the project, and we're not saying like, hey, what do you want? But here, when it comes to what a developer needs from you, what QA needs from you, what a Scrum Master needs from you, especially when it's engineers, I'm going to them and I'm saying, hey, here's what I normally deliver. Let's look through it and I'll show you what I've got, but then you tell me what you need and I'll make it. And I pretty much never say no to developers. I pretty much don't. You know, if they say, oh, you know, I wish I had a prototype with a document pointing out some of the whatevers, I'll do that. Oh, I wish I had this with some specs and colors and okay, I'm not a visual designer, but I'll find the person who can get that. So we need to give the developers whatever they need to for their work to be efficient and successful. Do that. All right. Here we go. And now we've got Afzal's question. And it was, also, let's see, can I set off any of my special effects today? Any of them working? Don't forget to come to deltacx.com/links for stuff about the show. Subscribe. Won't you please subscribe? I am giving you a show while I'm on vacation. Did you subscribe, honey?
Yes.
That's so nice of you.
Yeah. I can make live effects.
You can make live effects?
And go there and they'd be like,
If you want to do live effects, you can.
just ask me what you need and I'll
I don't even know what I need. Just maybe some dinner.
better bandwidth.
Better bandwidth. No, I mean we're not doing too bad. I'll run another speed test.
Questions are waiting.
Questions are waiting. Oh my God! Listen to this guy, my bad stakeholder. I tried to get conversational for a moment there, and I'm keeping it real.
You got distracted.
I'm keeping it real over here. Don't tell me what to do.
It's like
No, seriously, we're having fun over here. Janice says, Debbie's level of dedication is unmatched. Thank you, Janice. You're very sweet. And I hope you are feeling better. Please let me know. What's your advice on creating a taxonomy for UX research repository that shows qualitative research data? So first of all, I can't give you specific advice about that because ultimately the taxonomy has to match the way that your company thinks of things. For example, at the company where I'm consulting now, which by the way, my contract ends in early July, so if anybody would like to hire me, I will be available soon. Who wants me to be their manager? Hands up. At this company, I went into the repository that they were using and I started searching for something and I couldn't find a lot of stuff. And I found out that the term that I was using for the project was the new term for the project, and that there was an old term for the project, and that there was other stuff in there, but I was so new, I didn't know the project used to have an old name. That to me is a tagging and taxonomy fail. Somebody who worked there as the project was changing names should have gone in and re-tagged the old stuff with both project names and then tag the new stuff with both project names. What are people writing? I'm doing so much better, almost 100%. Good. Do they not want you again? Kayleen, actually, if I may say quickly, the job told me that my contract won't be extended, but that they were very happy with what I did for them. So I will be there another month after I get back from my vacation, and then I will wind things up. But I would say it went well. Nice people. I would consider working there if they offered it, but I can also see myself moving to the next thing. I guess it's just that Mary Poppins thing. Bandwidth, not so bad. 4G hotspot.
Wake up. Did we forget something?
No, that was find my device.
Oh, I guess your devices are in front of you.
My watch decided to try to find my phone.
Well, you found it. Success.
Yes, here's my phone, counting down the rest of the time on the show. Y'all, this is the craziest show ever! Yeah, thanks, Afzal's like, whatever, why am I here? Sorry, we do want to answer your questions. So to me, you have to work with if you are the research team, then the taxonomy is kind of up to you. But how will other people search for this data and these studies later on? Probably by project name, probably by the area of the product, maybe if there's a domain or portfolio or program that it's a part of, maybe by the researcher or team that worked on it, maybe even by the product manager, product owner, or project manager. So to me, the taxonomy is about however your company tends to categorize and organize projects. That way you're speaking the language that's already been spoken. Do your projects have numbers? Then you want to use that number. Do the projects have names? Use that name. Or so I think, what were some of the goals of the projects? Put them in as keywords. So I think that's going to be your best bet related to repository taxonomy. It's not going to be one size fits all, but like anything in UX, you want to adjust it for the user. And the user is you and your coworkers and your future coworkers. So how can you set them up for success so that when they go to find, like if someone suddenly said, I wonder, what do we know about what people think of our pricing? You want to make sure you've got the right keywords in there relating to pricing or prices or whatever people tend to say at your company. So that would be what I would say. Kayleen says, I need to change my alarms. My alarm ringtones are more aggressive. That was so calming. Yeah, I didn't custom set that one. That was Find My Phone, which I don't even know why it went off. My Android watch decided to find my cell phone, and they're both right here. I don't get it. But if you want a nice wake-up alarm, I have mine custom set on my phone. It is a weird B-side of one of my favorite bands. They are called Sparks, and the weird B-side is called This Town 1920s Archival. And basically, it's a very famous 1970s song that the band had called This Town Ain't Big Enough for Both of Us, or sometimes you'll see it as This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us. But they decided to do it in like a 1920s saloon piano version. Kayleen might like that. Afzal, I hope that helps you. Kayleen says, I'm hearing through the grapevine that hiring managers for UXR positions perk up when talking about repositories. Yeah, I think it is good. I'm going to put that on the list of things we've talked about today, even though it's not really a question. I think it is good to be familiar with repositories and what you would use a repository for. If you can get some experience in some of the common ones, some people are using things like Enjoy HQ and Dovetail, hashtag not sponsored. It's good to get some experience with those things if you can and play around with them, just so that if someone says, do you have experience with this? I don't know if you would have a real work experience, but hopefully it's software you've started to become familiar with. According to my timer, which hasn't gone off yet, we've got 15 minutes left to the show, which means, let's see, can I click this button? What will this one do? Oh no, I've already got that one. Maybe, I deleted most of my buttons so that this wouldn't be as blippy, but yet it is blippy. That's why I got the new computer. But anyway, I was going to say, please subscribe. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and please tell friends about it. We are here usually every Tuesday, usually 6:30 p.m. Italy time. This one's early because a storm is coming. I'll see if I can pull that up on my weather radar. Ooh! Oh, not looking good, y'all. I'm the blue dot. Oh, it's green screening. Look at that. It's trying to green screen my logo. Ah ha ha ha. I didn't turn that off. Ah ha 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 ha. Anyway, as you can see, the storm is coming. It should be raining on us kind of right now.
It was raining a little.
Yep. So, yeah. So we'll do the best we can for today, but I'm here to answer your questions. I'll try to do next Tuesday as well, though total unknown because we'll be at a different campsite. We're changing campsites every few days just to see different places. So today we just arrived here. Yeah.
We did?
Yeah. Are you cooking dinner?
Yeah, maybe just after the show.
After
Maybe
the show.
not now.
No, not right now.
Okay.
Well, I know I get hungry earlier than you do. That's another.
Always up for pasta.
Always up for pasta. That's good. Afzal says, one last question. Super. Let's answer this one. Let me copy and paste it into the exciting list of questions. And questions are free. Don't be embarrassed about asking them. I'm here to help you, and I hope I am. So please tell friends about the channel. Tell them to subscribe to Delta CX. We donate all of our ad revenue to charity, so I'm not asking for subscribers for the money. I'm asking it to help more people. All right, Afzal says, how important are prototypes? What's your opinion on low and high fidelity prototypes? Super. I think I could probably spend 13 minutes talking about prototypes. So let's go into some detail here. First of all, what is a low, medium, or high fidelity prototype? Fidelity is usually a measure of how realistic the visual design is. So for example, a low fidelity prototype might look sketchy or black and white, or again, fidelity comes from the Latin and it means faithful, or sometimes trustworthy. So the idea is the higher the fidelity, the more faithful it is to our real visual design. So a low fidelity prototype is usually sketchy looking or black and white. A medium fidelity prototype might have a little bit of color and some care towards the typography, but definitely does not have any sort of finalized visual design or branding. And then your high or full fidelity prototype is going to be fully visually designed. It's going to look like a mock-up or comp or it's going to have the true final color, typography, everything. So that's the difference. And we can use the low, medium, and high fidelity both for wireframes and for prototypes. These definitions hold for both. Now there's another word that I like to throw into the mix that a lot of people don't always use, and that's realism. So if we think about a prototype, we have a prototype that's not realistic. So imagine we're going to create an app or a website. What's the least realistic prototype we could make? Paper. Because paper isn't even a computer screen. You are so far from what you're trying to build. You're asking people to imagine that this paper is a computer screen. You are really far away in realism. Even if you showed them paper that was high fidelity and had a lot of visual design and stock photos and good typography, even if you showed them that, this is still low on realism. Janice says, I'm going to end with a hard question. Okay, so I'm going to paste that in, and Janice's question will be our last question. Thanks, Janice. So let's talk about realism of prototypes, because this will also speak to the importance of the prototype. If I make wireframes and I print them out and I want to test that on people, say a usability test, well, that's a completely flawed test. That's not. Oh, Larry left a comment in LinkedIn comparing the pros and cons of high, medium, and low. Oh, okay, yeah, that could be a good one too. Larry likes to definitely go through low, medium, and high, but I want to talk more about realism and the importance of prototyping. So we've had wireframes forever, and the idea was here's a drawing or a sketch or a computer mock-up of what this screen's going to look like. Now we want to test it. We have to say things to people like, what would you do here? But that's weird because they can't really explore this thing. It's paper. It's static screens. It's not realistic to the digital experience. It's not interactive. So here we are doing interaction design, and we're showing people either wireframes or low realism prototypes, and we're asking them to use these things. Well, we can't. So I find things like Figma, InVision, Sketch, Adobe XD, these are non-realistic prototypes because very often they are just click-throughs. They are go from this screen to this screen to this screen or to this menu coming up, but they don't let people really explore this thing for real. You really can't move through it in a natural way. It's not a boundless prototype where people can really just, when I build a prototype, they're much more realistic. They're high on realism and they're medium fidelity. So again, wrap your head around that for a moment. They're medium fidelity, which means they're not totally sketchy or black and white, but they probably don't have full visual design. But they're high on realism because I use Axure, not sponsored. And that means that I can give people a very realistic prototype and I can say, here's your task, go. And just let them do it and be able to use that as a test. Otherwise, I find that a lot of these usability tests or UX testing with Figma, Sketch, Adobe, XD, InVision, things like that, very often we end up telling people what to do, or we say, do you see this button over here? This is all flawed testing. So one of the important things about prototypes is showing people a realistic experience of the digital interactivity before engineering writes code, because we want to test out our concepts. We want to test the execution of the concepts. Maybe the idea is good, but our design isn't good yet. Maybe the idea stinks and our design is okay, but the idea is bad. So the idea of prototyping, and to me it is very, very important. A really important skill, and I think if you search jobs right now, most UX designer jobs expect you to prototype. Now, typically they're expecting Figma, Sketch, Adobe, but I'm hoping that over time they'll increasingly expect Axure and Axure's competitors because the realism will become more important. Whenever I watch a Figma prototype get usability tested, it's completely flawed because I can't use the thing realistically. I look at the screen and I go, maybe I'd click that. You can't click that. Nobody ever built the prototype to do that. Okay, that can happen in Axure too, but I find that people using Axure are usually thinking more ahead and building out their prototypes to do more, and the Figma prototypes are typically just move through the flow. Oh, you move through the flow? This must be good. Well, then what are we testing here? This isn't a usability test anymore if we have the low standard of did people move through flow. So I hope that helps. I'm going to jump to Janice's question so that we can then wind down for the day. For UX worker bees stuck in the weeds, ideally, how do you imagine they grow and learn to lead or strategize or become a leader? Okay, so that's obviously a long-term goal. Hey, I'm a new UX worker, or I'm a worker bee, I'm a junior, mid-level, senior. How am I ever going to get to leadership? Many UX jobs do promote people roughly every 2 years. So I think once you can get that foot in the door and get that junior job, if it's a good workplace and you're sticking around, you should be able to level up in your title roughly every 2 or 3 years. So just looking at Kayleen's comment. That would be, I mean, the easy version is you let this take its natural course and you get there. Now, what kinds of skills will you need to be promoted or to continue moving up? In many cases, I believe that the skills that a junior needs are similar to the skills that a senior or lead needs. The difference is how good you are at those skills because you've been doing them now eventually at an expert level, how strategic you are about your project, or as you move up, maybe if you're a lead or principal, maybe it's how strategic you are across a couple of projects. When I worked at Macy's, the lead oversaw a team, not as our manager, but as like a team lead, and also looked over a couple of other teams' projects to make sure we weren't working on the same thing at the same time. So sometimes a lead needs to have that oversight or be strategic across one project, sometimes multiple projects. So the future UX leader is first going to show that leadership in things like being strategic about a project. What does that look like? Hey, here's a project we need to do. Here's what the outcomes should be for the business. Here's what the outcomes should be for the users and customers. What should we do? You've got all of user-centered design available to you. Research, information architecture, interaction design. What do we do? Now, I find that the people who just came out of the boot camps can't answer that question yet. And that's okay. You're still fresh to UX. Somebody who's more mid-level, 2 years of experience, 3 years of experience, they're going to start to know how to answer that question. They're going to know when do we make personas and when don't we. They're going to know when do we need an empathy map and when don't we. They're going to know how long do I spend on this and there's no opposite there. They're going to know how many people do we want to include in our research and why. So I don't expect newbies and juniors to know that. That's a strategic thing. I really think you get way more strategic as a senior. I think a mid-level can start to show a bit of that, but I don't expect a huge amount of strategy from them. And then the senior, I expect to be very strategic. I expect to be able to say, all right, we've got 6 weeks. We need to have this done by then. We need to know these things. What does this project look like? Plan it. So one thing that separates levels for me is strategy and of course the level of excellence of your UX craft. Obviously the newbie researcher is not as good with research as someone who's hopefully doing it 3, 4, 5 years. So level of technical excellence, let's just say. I do expect critical thinking from everybody. Also, as you move up in levels, there's going to be coaching and mentoring. A senior might coach or mentor or check the work of people more junior to them. A lead is going to check the senior's work and maybe people more junior to them. So you have these levels of hierarchy, and part of that is work checks. But excuse me, of course, you have to work your way up to a level of proficiency where you can check other people's work and you can spot mistakes or inconsistencies or poor attention to detail or something that they missed. So these are the types of things. Janice, am I going in the right direction? Kayleen, am I going in the right direction? Is this the kind of thing that you're wondering about? Because this to me is what separates mid and junior and senior. It's not how many things you know. It's not like, oh, you know 3 research methods. You must only be a junior. I want you to know 6. You know, a junior researcher could be familiar with 6 research methods, but they might just be meh at all of them because you're junior. I expect you to know these things at a junior level. And then you're going to be able to level up as you get better at this stuff. Yeah, I think that answers that, but we're live, so let me know if that came close. Kayleen says, I'd agree with what you've said. Okay, cool. I get to eat. Janice says, yes, thanks so much. I'll put those up on the screen. Cool. Well, great. In that case, I think I'm going to get out of here because the show's just about over anyway. I do have a Friday critical thinking stream on the books, but I don't yet know what the internet is going to look like at our next vacation spot, because Friday will be changing spots again. So I might have to make a last minute time change or cancellation depending upon what our internet looks like. Thanks to everybody for putting up today with some very blippy internet and the audio not syncing with the video. Oh, Chiwat's here. I feel that certain abilities are innate and not worth spending too much time trying to get better at. For example, illustration. You know, I tend to agree. I know that I'm a deeply mediocre artist. My illustration is not good. I was a better illustrator as a kid, and then I just lost it. And I never bothered trying to get better at it. And I've just decided that's not important to me. I would rather be a strategist and researcher and interaction designer and information architect than an illustrator. And that was my choice. But if I liked illustration, I could have worked on getting better at it. The end. So thanks to people for joining today. Sorry it was at a weird, non-usual time. Hopefully the critical thinking stream will be on for Friday, but I make no promises because this is my vacation. And thanks to my boyfriend for letting me take an hour away from my vacation and my time with him to see all y'all. So...
Ping pong.
do they have a ping pong table
No,
here?
we missed. Can we go back to the?
Go back to the previous stop to play ping pong. I'm sorry, honey. You should have said more at the time.
Table tennis.
Table tennis. All right. Well, hopefully we'll play some ping pong at some
They're
point.
filling up the pool.
Right. Poor. Oh my gosh, my poor boyfriend. All he's been talking about is how he's going to jump in the pool when we got here, and we got here and the pool is empty. There's no water. So.
But it's going to be filled.
How do you know?
There was water.
What do you mean? They're filling it now?
They're filling it now, and somebody was just mowing the lawn.
For real?
Yeah.
Maybe you will get to swim.
Maybe.
Maybe the thunderstorm will fill
Who
the pool.
knows?
All right.
tuned.
Thanks, everybody. I'll try to keep up with you on Slack, but, you know, mostly if it's raining and I have nothing else to do. So be well, be safe. I'm going to play us out of here if my songs play, and I will try to see everybody Friday. Thanks, and be well. Bye.
Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are